Okay, we're going to start tonight's meeting. Tonight is the April 1st, truly not April Fool's. It's the April 1st meeting of the Board of Selectmen. With me I'm Bob Carlson, the first selectman. We have Selectwoman Nicole Porter, Selectman Brett Mastriani, and Admin Finance Officer Suzanne Thero. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Public comment on non-agenda items. As usual, we can take comment on agenda items after the selectmen have said what they wanted to say. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes from March 26th.
So moved.
Thank you. Second from Nicole.
Oh, I think we said it at the same time. I'll second.
Did you say?
No, I didn't say anything.
He said so. He said so moved. So he motioned.
Oh.
You second.
Okay.
Okay, Nicole.
Yeah,
second.
no, I'm good. I'm seconding.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the Board of Selectmen minutes from March 26th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, approved 3-0. Perfect. Yes. Sure. Yep, you can. You have to use this microphone though, and yeah, but use that one because that way you're on camera. That one you're not. So, well, that's the price you have to pay. All right. So we want to make sure that microphone works, Brett. You just have to say your name and where you live. I know you've done this before.
Hi, I'm Lynn Faulkner. I live at 3 Yabux Valley Road. And I just wanted to let everybody know that as of Facebook today, I have put on that we'll be doing a food program that's going to be tied into the referendum for the budget, asking people to bring food for the school. I just started it today and I really would like to expand it beyond North Stonington. So you'll probably see me in news media things because I'm kind of skilled at doing that. So May 20th, right date?
May 19th.
We better change that on Facebook, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Actually, it was on the internet. May 20th.
You talked about the referendum, correct? Not the town meeting.
The
Okay.
referendum.
Yes.
I will ask people if they will bring food for the town meeting also, every opportunity that we can get, because there's been so much money cut back from the food pantries that the smaller places are going to have to be the ones that pick up the difference. So.
And you've talked to Mrs. Costanza already,
I've
correct?
talked to Mrs. Costanza. She's already responded to my comment on Facebook. She was thrilled. She's lovely. But it's going to take a lot of people because I'm not going to be satisfied with just a can of beans. So you're going to have to really start collecting your food. That's all.
Great, thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, are there any comments by either of the two selectmen? No, Brett, you're good. Nicole, you're good. Okay, just a quick comment. You probably saw I emailed you the audit. The audit presentation to the Board of Finance will be tomorrow evening. Be one of the first things on their agenda. I'll let them tell you, but overall, the audit came out very, very well. In the comments, the town was comments were positive. There'll be a decent sized number of money going back to the undesignated fund, which is actually in the undesignated fund that I gave you this evening, the page that's on your table there. So that'll be discussed more tomorrow, but I just wanted to let you know, I did send you the audit. Now you will be getting, if you want a hard copy, as soon as it gets approved by the Board of Finance, they will produce hard copies. And like every year, I'll give the selectmen, each get a copy, Suzanne, each member of the Board of Finance, and so on. I think we get like, 25 copies or something like that. Overall, I got to say it was a very successful. And one nice thing is the town's net has gone up for 3 straight years. It was actually in the negative in 2021 before we came on board. And since we've been on board, it's going up each year. So it's a net positive. That's it on that. So let's go down. Let's get back to motor vehicle taxation discussion. I feel like we just talked about it. And I did send you, Brett had asked, and I said to Daryl, can you please get me a random list of vehicles in town? I don't want you to take the list and skew it anyway. Just give me 8 vehicles or 10 vehicles. Give me small and large, old and new. Just come up with something. He came up with 8 vehicles, of which 7 vehicles of the 8 went down in taxes compared to last year's taxes. 1 went up, and it went up by $14. The assessed value went up by about $400, but the taxes on that are between $13 and $14. So overall, it's for us to lose $220,000 in taxes, more have to go down than go up. If you have this sheet I gave you last time, we would have a gain of $158,954 without going to the vehicle tax option. The net loss in revenue is $379,679 minus the $158,954 we would then not lose. We still would have a net loss of $220,725. I think I gave you this sheet in your packet. It was just something I mocked up. It was the front page of the budget, not the actual budget. And I showed that what would happen if the revenue went up to it would go up to 907,876.56. By doing that, and if both the Board of Ed and the Board of Selectmen follow the guidance of the Board of Finance and bring their budgets down to 4% or less, there'd be a $57,135 difference. So one of our residents got up at the last Board of Ed meeting and said, wouldn't it be nice if we just spent what we brought in for revenue? Daryl says we get this and that's what we spend. Right now, the revenue is around $748,000 with a $1.3 million budget request. By us getting down to 4%, if the Board of Ed gets down to 4% and we add this money back into revenue, the revenue becomes 907,876.56. And with the going down to 4%, budget request drops to 965,012 for a net 57,135.44. So under 60,000, which is a lot easier to make up than 600,000. And that's all I've got to say. And I guess we can discuss, and then we can vote on this evening. We have to vote yes or no on this evening, because if we vote yes, Daryl has to get the grand list finished by April 15th. If we vote no, we don't have to do anything. We just drop it. So, and that's where we are. I'll take comments from either selectman at this point.
No, I mean, I think for me, seeing what it does to kind of real people, there are more people that are having their car taxes go down. I mean, granted, it's not a full view of everybody. I am better, and I feel comfortable making the decision moving forward with the information that we got in the email.
I think one thing I mentioned last week is if the Board of Finance holds both other boards feet to the fire and we do what we're supposed to do with our budgets, and this money goes to keep the mill rate either lower or flatter, then it helps all taxpayers. That's my thought about it. So, Brett, comment?
I appreciate that Daryl went through that exercise and gave some insight on it. So I feel more comfortable voting for it. I don't love it. I still think it's a way around. We're basically adjusting the mill rate on vehicles by us doing that, if you think about it that way. So we're making the call to raise people's taxes on their vehicles. That's allowed by law. I do worry, and I think if this goes through, and that when you present it to the Board of Finance this week, that they know that this can change next year. So I'd hate for them to look at that number as revenue that'll keep coming in every year. So then they say, okay, well, since we're getting this extra money, maybe we don't need to cut 4%, maybe we can go up. But next year, that could change. As we know, they're gonna slowly try to get rid of this tax. So I worry about that more than anything else, that eventually we're gonna have to make up for this number somewhere.
So I did give you the table with the 20-year, right? It starts at 90 rather than 85.
Right.
Anything can change. I mean, we could lose the entire Pequot.
Right. So I
next year,
just don't want us to think that this money is always coming in and that we upped it to make a shortcut. I do want to be transparent and say that the difference of the 158,000, is that what it is?
Mhm.
Isn't just because it's a different calculation. It's also the trailers that aren't being taxed. So it's not the calculation that changed how much we're bringing in. It's a combination of a few things. So it's not like we say, okay, because they changed the calculation, we're bringing in less money. That's not necessarily the truth. It's a combination of the two. And I understand that the math is the biggest chunk of that, but it is still something to be mindful of. So as long as when it's presented to the Board of Finance, that this is what we're doing for this year. Who knows what happens next year with this revenue? I think that's important, because I don't want to say, hey, we've got a windfall of extra money, because it's really not. It's taxpayers' dollars that we're deciding to charge them a little more.
So I think you're misrepresenting this as revenue, because really we're losing 379, 679 to begin with. So it's not revenue, it's less of a loss. It's not, we're not gaining it. It's not like we're raising car taxes.
I disagree. Every year, taxes are revenue to the town. It's not the loss. Every year, people's values of their vehicles go down. So their taxes should go down on those vehicles every year. So the ones that are saying, okay, well, this is going down this year because of it, it's one or the other. But a loss in revenue is just that. Every year taxes are looked at, and that's our revenue. So it's not, I don't think I'm misrepresenting in how that's spoken, how we speak.
So, I mean, I think unfortunately, we're gonna either do it here or we're gonna do it in a mill
In a
rate
mill rate,
increase. So we have the opportunity that I think is unprecedented around us right now. If we take I forget what you said, the $57,000 or whatever we're missing from what we're bringing in to what we plan to spend, if both the government budget and the Board of Ed budget decrease to 4%, we have the opportunity to actually take that gap and take it out of our undesignated, which is incredibly healthy to the point of being almost a little over, and not raise taxes in town. That is got to be unheard of right now. So for me, this is, I'm in favor. And I think that you are, but you're concerned with, we're all concerned. We're taxpayers as well. But if we have the opportunity for some people, a percentage in town, to have their car taxes go up, but we have the opportunity to put a budget forward that is almost going to be completely flat, that's huge to me.
I agree. It is huge, and I hope that's the case. And we have to be mindful of those reductions that they're asking us for, and not just say, hey, we got more revenue, let's up those.
No, I mean, I think
right.
agenda item in, coming up is taking a look at where we're going to bring our budget down to 4%.
Yeah.
Um,
And I guess we don't also know what the Board of Finance will do with the undesignated account. Will they keep the mill rate the same and just take it out of there? Well, I guess we'll see, but after this report that we have, it looks promising.
Yeah.
Okay,
So unless you want to talk about it some
I don't need to
more,
talk about
I'll make a motion to adopt the state's option for us as a town to change the way. Okay, how do we want to word it?
so do I hear a motion for us to adopt the option that was given to the town to to lessen the decrease in tax dollars realized by vehicles? Close enough.
Do we have any wording from the state itself on what we
I
can?
think there is, it's an alternative
we're doing?
tax. Let me look here.
I might have had it the last time. I think I had it the
Because
last time.
I want us to be careful to say that we as a town are getting ready to adopt taxing vehicles in town on more than the state normally allows.
Right.
I not
And I
liking
don't,
that.
and I don't love the
wording.
word decrease of people's tax because I don't
No,
think
so,
that's true.
so isn't it the fact that we are looking at a 90% instead of an 85%?
Correct.
So it's new evaluation method as amended under vehicles initial.
Let him make the motion.
Go ahead, if you got it right in front of you.
I'm just looking to see if they have a name of what the add-on is called.
Because last week I had all this paperwork. Anyway,
So I think you can make a motion to amend the new evaluation method by the state of adding the 5% to their percent of reduced valuations by motor vehicle age.
Okay,
Of
is that your
5%.
motion?
Jen's going to listen to this meeting and try to figure out what you said. So
I'm trying to, so it's really, they call it the new evaluation method, but I don't see in here where it adds that 5%. I think that was something, Bob, you sent out after this.
Maybe we don't have to get that specific because you said that it includes,
So
Not
basically,
taxing
it
trailers
allows us to
anymore,
add
correct?
5% to the state's evaluation method for motor vehicle tax.
so it's called the alternative motor vehicle depreciation schedule.
okay. I am going to make a motion to adopt the state's
The alternate,
option to,
alternative motor vehicle depreciation tax schedule.
how many slides does it take to make one?
Just say something. You want to read it?
I will make a motion to adopt the state's alternative motor vehicle
Tax
depreciation
evaluation.
schedule.
So moved. Second.
Perfect. Any other discussion by the selectmen? No. Is there any discussion by anyone in the audience?
Bob, we talked about that. Once we make a motion, it's really.
Yeah, but it's open for discussion, and we've
It's-
always allowed discussion on agenda items. We always have.
But we talked about that and it's not,
No, you talked about that. We didn't agree on it.
it's totally a violation of Robert's Rules of Order.
Well,
Once you open, so
but
you
we-
can open it up before a motion's made, but once a motion is made by a board, it's only the board that can discuss that motion.
So we follow Robert's Rules of Order, but we don't adhere to them all the time. We use them as a guide. Would anybody like to make a comment on this? Brian?
Brian Rathbun, 263 Grindstone Hill Road. I look at it this way. It's another tax. The state adds a lot of taxes to things. I think I pointed it out before. Our registration's got $35 extra worth of taxes. Plus, in North Stonington, from what I understand, our 17% undesignated fund has more money in it. That means I've been overtaxed as it is. Any taxes that added to the taxes I got now, I'm against. That's it. And I think the extra money, if there's extra money, you gotta find. The Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education have been told by the Board of Finance that they need to cut their budgets. So to me, that sounds good because it'll take away, help relieve me of some taxes. But yet, we're gonna add what the state of Connecticut says we can do. If we keep following the state of Connecticut, adding taxes, God's sakes, next thing you're gonna do is tax my chickens, for God's sakes. So I'm against any extra taxes.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Okay, any other discussion?
Carl Johnston, 8B Ruderman Road. See if I can follow this through. You're saying that this year's evaluation, if we don't use it, is going to decrease because of the way they're going to evaluate the cars.
They have a decrease in the way they're doing
Okay.
evaluating cars, because they're not using the NAHD book anymore. They're using using the original MSRP and going through 70% off of that, then 85% off of that.
Right. So everybody's tax that they paid last year was out of the old system.
Correct.
So you're saying that them taxes would have gone down and we would have lost income to here.
We would have lost
375.
379, 670.
So they're telling you can tax a little bit more to keep some of that money they took away from you to begin with.
They said we can
Correct.
start the chart at 90 rather than 85. And it's only because the towns were all squawking because we've lost money in the
Right,
ECS
no,
funding.
I'm-
We've lost money in
I'm
other
I'm
areas.
trying to follow something all the way through, but like the question I asked you the other night. So nobody in town is being taxed basically any more than what they are already, because they were already going to be decreased. Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, they are being taxed more.
But the bigger people are going to be a little bit higher. Everybody else is probably going to stay pretty close to the same, because you're going to devaluate what you're going to do to lose 300 and some odd thousand
I
dollars.
think the argument, Carl, is for those that don't want to do this, is that we're not going down as low as the state's allowing us to.
Right. That's what I wanted to make sure that's where we're at. So you're bumping it up 5% to make up the difference of what they took away.
It's
It
not
doesn't
even
make up all
close
the
to making
difference.
up
We're
the
still out,
It's not even close.
we're still out 220,000, right?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving this amended tax plan, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Brett, yay, no? Okay, that's a no. Okay, so it's, no abstention, so it's 2-1-0. Thank you. Budget discussion. We were told asked by the Board of Finance to try to get our budget down to 4%. Suzanne's willing, good. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Logan. Logan's here. He came into the office the other day and said he's going to probably need to come to the town for an appropriation of funds to finish out his year with the NSAA payroll. And I said, we'll come to the Board of Selectmen meeting on Tuesday. We'll talk about it and then let us know what the number is. And then on the 15th, we can do an appropriation. If we approve an appropriation, then we would take that to the Board of Finance on the 16th. So go ahead, Logan, if you'd like to speak about it.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Logan Tell. I'm the chief of North Stonington Ambulance. So I've been down and talking with Bob. I had to do a 3.5% increase to my EMT salaries in December because they had not received a raise in over 18 months. So we lost two very good EMTs because they went somewhere else because they made more money. So I ended up giving them a small raise to keep the EMTs that we had and try to attract more EMTs to come into town and to work for North Stonington Ambulance. So with the way our budget was set up, as I reported to the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen with the annual report, we were short $78,000 last year, that we were able to scrape together with bugging the billing company and going through all the process of trying to get the extra income in from the billing. Unfortunately, this year that's not an option. They're billing everything the way that it's supposed to be billed. So to finish out the last remainder of the year, I'm going to have to come down and ask for an allocation of $76,000. And whatever monies that are not used by the 1st of July will be returned back to the town.
You have enough money to cover payroll through when at this point?
I have enough payroll to cover basically 3 payrolls, so 6 weeks.
Okay, because what the process has to be is do an appropriation for our meeting on the 15th, which you can be at that if you'd like.
Yes, sir.
That'll be the official vote by the selectmen. If we vote to approve, it has to go to the Board of Finance. I'll get on their agenda, and that, because it's over 20,000, has to go to a town meeting. The next town meeting is the budget town meeting of May 5th.
Yep, and
So
we're good until about the 2nd or 3rd week of May.
Okay, so time-wise, it would work for you, providing that you get the approvals you need.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for Logan?
You said that our current EMTs hadn't received a raise for about 18 months.
18
right?
months.
And we lost 2 people to,
Well, we
Other
lost more than 2 people. The newest people that had left was right around December.
and what was the, do you remember the percent raise they had gotten 18 months ago?
They got 54 cents.
Have you done an evaluation of where we're at as far as surrounding towns of like, right? So we can't compare what Groton Town is paying their people, but other small towns, we compared to how far off we are.
So we're about $2 off. Mystic River Ambulance is paying 23 and change for per diems. That's not counting their full timers. That's just per diems. I know that American Ambulance is a much bigger corporation than we are. They're starting at almost $25 an hour. Moosa Plainfield Ambulance is paying 21 for per diems and 21 for full timers. And Stonington's all volunteer.
The budget you've handed in for this cycle that we're in the process of approving, do you feel after 2 years of having to come for an appropriation or coming up short and completely understand all of the challenges with collections we've had detailed conversations about that.
Yeah, but this is the first year I'm coming for appropriation.
Because you found
Yeah,
that money
yeah.
in some kind of lost charges that you could recoup. But how comfortable are you with the budget you put forward as far as being able to?
100%. I know I'll be okay. I know that the organization will be okay with that budget number. This year we were granted $250,000 to operate off of. So I requested $394,000 for this next coming fiscal year. So we'll be perfectly fine.
If there is overages, like you said, we'll come back to the town.
Yeah, that will be the first thing that I do July 1st. And I'm going to keep, and this money will only be used for payroll. This won't be used for any other expenses. It will be used for payroll only. And when we come to the 1st of July, whatever is left, I will return back to the town.
And what was the total again?
76,000.
And again, we're not voting on this evening. I know it, you just like to see things, a week or two in advance. So I just say come in, mention it tonight, and we'll talk about it on the 15th. So, Brett, you have a comment?
No, I just worry that it's a tight timeline. It doesn't give a lot of room for error. I'd almost be okay with moving it forward
I
tonight
would too. I mean,
and get it to the Board of Finance for their discussion. It might be a little more.
Yeah, I can't get it to them tomorrow because we're not on the agenda for this tomorrow, but I could get it.
They could, is that
they can ask.
that's a normal meeting tomorrow, right? So they can add it
They
to the.
could. I just have to get it typed up and then get it approved. But if you want to approve it tonight, we can. I just don't have it typed up yet. But so usually I give it to you, with the line and with,
I mean, knowing you have 3 weeks of money to
No,
pay.
no.
Three pay
three
periods.
Pay period,
periods.
sorry, okay.
Yeah, I just don't see a point
I don't-
of waiting
I actually don't.
on
either.
something like this. And Logan, you've been straightforward with us every time you presented. I value that. I know the pains that you're going through, the sounds and how you explain everything. So I'm comfortable moving it forward tonight,
You
And
can
at
make a
least-
motion.
trying to get an extra 2 weeks on it to see if we can move it along a little quicker.
I can, if you want to make a motion, I can
What
let
was the total dollar?
76,000.
76.
I can let the Board of Finance know through email. I can email the chairman and the vice chairman tomorrow morning. Say, we voted on this last night. We have planned to vote it on the 15th. We did it last night because of a tight timeline. And would they please add it to the meeting? Once the meeting starts, they can add it. 'Cause it's a
So
regular
I'll
meeting.
make a motion.
But you know what? That's a special meeting tomorrow night. I'm almost positive it says special meeting on their agenda, which they could still do it on the 16th, but we can still approve it this evening.
Can I, while Brett's looking at that, the undesignated fund, we should be around 17%. We're now looking at about almost 19%, right?
So with that, with the addition of what's going to come back through the audit, we're at 18 and change. So, but you'll be taking 76,000 out of that number if this gets approved.
So it is a normal meeting tomorrow night,
It's not
so they
Okay.
could add it. So I'll
Okay.
make a motion to approve, to move $76,000 to Board of Finance for a special appropriation for the ambulance payroll.
I'll second.
Okay.
And just part of our discussion, it's more comment, just make sure if you have any information at all, email it tonight or tomorrow morning to the Board of Finance so they can see it.
Okay.
Bob will do his part, but they like to get things ahead of time so
Yep.
they can review and have any questions. And then just be prepared with where you are, kind of what you went over for the budget, the collectibles and that kind of stuff, just to give them all the information they might need.
If you forward me something in the morning, Logan, I can get it to them. And then we have a Board of Finance member present this evening too, so he can talk about it himself too. tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, if there's any other discussion with the selectmen? Okay, all those in favor, let's say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, approved 3-0. Logan, I didn't expect to get it approved tonight, but
Well, thank you so much for all your time.
thank you for what you
Thank
guys
you.
do.
See you guys tomorrow.
I did talk to Attorney Avina, by the way, and I sent him over I copied you on it. I sent him over the wording on that program you want to run as far as fall prevention program. And he's just checking out the wording on it to make sure that you're covered. Thank you. Okay, next, let's talk about the budget. Nicole, I'm gonna let you go first tonight, because I always go, yes, I want you to have the
Ooh,
stage first.
I don't know if I want to go first because I'm not going to be popular, unfortunately.
Well, I don't think, you saw the list I gave you, so I don't think any of us gonna be popular. but-
So
Did you want to go through the budget with any additions for us and then any reductions? You have a copy of the budget with you, correct?
yeah, so I think one of the biggest things that I wanted to bring up is something that is obviously going to be really sensitive. And doesn't matter how I say it, it's not going to come out making me look good. But I've been doing a lot of thinking on the giving closet and that ask. We had already taken it from, was it 30
30
down to 25?
35 to 20,
35 to 20.
correct. Did you get the letters from, there was a couple of residents that sent us letters. Did you get those?
Yes, and I think that is, so yes, I have gotten people who have come and just expressed their concern about the size of the new ask for the first time. How things will play out. I know in the past we talked about having it be contingent on obtaining nonprofit status. I think for me this year, I'd like to see a little bit more structure and some sustainability measures put in place before even dedicating as much as 20. I'm actually, when I think about, when I remove the ask as far as a salary for somebody, if I remove that, if we put forward $5,000 this year, that to me is a lot of money that they can do a lot of good with. I'm going to propose, one of my suggestions is that, unfortunately, and it will not be a popular, but I'm proposing that we drop it to 5,000. When we're talking about making changes that affect the way we operate our town, and certainly, not that we are responsible for what the Board of Ed is putting forward, but certainly will very well may end up in the loss of a paid employee over in the school. I just feel we have to do a little bit more. So I am suggesting we drop the giving closet to 5,000.
Okay, let me, just one quick thing for you and Brett. I would like to operate it this way this evening, if it's okay. So Suzanne, she's prepared to put the numbers in as we change them. So each suggestion we'll discuss, vote. If we vote to do it at a particular number, Suzanne again can put it in the working budget. In that way, if you say to her, okay, where are we now?
Yeah.
Kind of like when Christine used to do it, we'll know, okay, this is where we are. Okay, does that sound good to you? Okay. So you're saying that you'd like to bring the gift closet down to 5. Okay. Brett, you have a comment on that?
I mean, Nicole, I agree with you. It's not an easy way to bring up anything that, and I value what they do
Oh my
for the
gosh,
town.
absolutely.
But I too have been approached by numerous people on every aspect of life, really. There's been a lot that have come forward, and some are uncomfortable coming forward because it is such a touchy subject. And at the same time, yesterday I get an email or a letter from the Lions Club of looking for donations and giving you a synopsis of all the stuff and all the organizations they help provide for in town. And, you know, they don't come to us for a big appropriation. You know, they do their donations. And I understand every organization is different, but if we're looking at it globally as these are all our organizations in town, and I don't want to hurt one that is afraid to come ask us. And then we have ones that do, and how do we weed through that? If we know one is doing stuff for our town and they never asked, but another one asked and is doing stuff for town. And to Winona's point on the Board of Finance meeting, you know, maybe it's time to look at all our social services, because if you look at Miss Costanza and online on Facebook yesterday or the day before, the food pantry is short on food. They really need food. So I'm glad to hear that residents working on helping Miss Costanza do that. And I know there's many residents that help Miss Costanza on that. But I worry that there are all these different needs, and now we start with one and not look at all the other ones. Maybe it's now is the time to start looking at those. I would actually, I like your $5,000 put for it, but at the same time, I'm almost at a 0 for it. And the reason I'm at a 0, it's not that I don't believe it needs something down the road, but I'd rather say come for an appropriation when you get your status as the nonprofit. When you have a plan, we know the undesignated account is in a good place. And technically, if it's under the 20,000, it goes through our process, then to the Board of Finance. If it's over 20, it has to go to the town. But I'm much more comfortable with doing that than pre-taxing residents for something that might happen or might not happen. I hope it does happen, but at this stage, we don't know if that nonprofit status actually occurs. I'd rather them come to us and say, hey, we have everything lined up. We have our nonprofit status. We have a plan of how we're utilizing the money, and then come to us for an appropriation, and then us move it through the process. So I'd almost be at a 0 on it until that time, and then put it through for an appropriation when we have more information. Then lock up those dollars well ahead of time.
Okay, thank you.
And again, like Nicole said, it's nothing no reflection on how good Sarah is doing with that program. It's really on, we got to look at it as a whole of what the town needs and what other social services are being provided. And maybe it's time we look at that bigger picture.
Yeah, because I think that there will be strength in combining some of the efforts that a lot of our residents are doing. Sarah and her, the Giving Closet, Mrs. Costanza, the Senior Center. I think that there's a lot of opportunities to to appropriate money to something that has a little bit more sustainability and structure to it.
And I heard what Waynona was saying, and I agree. I think that's a big conversation for post-budget.
Right.
Because I think we really need to talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
the director of the senior center and where that's going if Teresa does retire at the end of the year. And as we talked about with Mrs. Costanza, who's never asked really for anything. And I think we can all agree that the Giving Closet, the heart is in the right place. Wonderful people trying to do wonderful things. I think we also can agree that the organization maybe isn't there yet. The organization, I think it's something that blew up. It's in doing something nice. It turned out that they couldn't do enough, and it got too overwhelming. And I think it's for the handful of people that worked there, became an overwhelming task. And it's new. It's the first time it appeared on our budget. So you get something new, something that people see as maybe less than totally organized. But we all agree it's wonderful people doing wonderful things. So I think that I agree that the first number was very high at 35. I'm looking at their ask, and if we look at director compensation, $19,000. Right, so that's salary for that. And mileage was $2,000. Office supplies $2,000. Give back to the schools and communities with new clothes, toiletries, and so on, $6,000. We hope to be able to partner with Stones and Human Services. That's on the North, had great ideas for North Stones schools, $2,000, branching out to homeless community, $3,000, becoming a nonprofit, $1,000. So it sounds like very round figures that were thrown at these things, right? And again, I think it's just because of a lack of knowledge. When I was in the lumber business, we had builders who were really good builders, but they weren't great businessmen. And we had people who were really good businessmen, but weren't great builders. It was tough to find both. And I think sometimes it's the same with a nonprofit or someone that wants to be a nonprofit. They really have a heart of gold, and they're just not good at how to be a nonprofit. How does it work? So I think there's more education that needs to be seen. I have a little bit of trouble with the zero, only because we know that they are doing wonderful things. And even if it's not so much for the salary, but some of the other expenses that I've just read, I would have rather seen the number go down to 10 instead of 5 or 0, but I'll acquiesce to that. If we want to come up with a compromise, I don't mind doing that. But I think I agree. We've heard back from a lot of residents. And I think it's residents, again, like us, think they're doing wonderful things, but they're just not sure how they're doing them. And it's an awful big number in the first year. Usually people come up TVCCA does a lot of wonderful things, and so does Always Home and Safe Futures, and they come up with a $2,500 ask or a $3,000 ask. I think the other thing is, if the Giving Closet does become a 501c3, they should go to other towns and ask, like these other towns come to us. But I'm not opposed to decreasing that number if we can come up with a number that we can all agree on. So you're saying 5, right? And you're saying 0?
So I'm saying 0 because they're not established yet. I'd rather them come back for an appropriation once they're established. So if we say 5,000, are we saying 5,000 until they get their nonprofit status, or 5,000 no matter what?
So for me, the ask was always that they be organized and they have their nonprofit status. And then they would get whatever we were able to give them. So I guess my proposal would be that, I'll stick with, I can stick with 5, but I'm open to more of a compromise, but with the caveat that they have their nonprofit status.
Okay. And Brett, are you willing to go off 025?
I'm uncomfortable with five. So I'm uncomfortable because we don't know what happens. So I hate to have that number locked in there for something that we don't know if it's going to happen or not. So the $5,000, if you look at our, those departments under,
The
if you
other
look
social
under
services.
social services, that's still a high number to lock into one that we don't know if it's happening. If they came to us and said, hey, we did it, like I said, I'd love to push it through to the Board of Finance for an appropriation, but I don't like to tax our residents based on holding 5,000 of what might happen.
How do you see the appropriation going? How does that work? So they're going to be spending the money to do what they need to do and then be reimbursed? Is that it?
So I think they need to operate on how they're operating now. So a lot of the stuff that they're talking about in there, those numbers don't, so a number to work with the Stonington Social Services, I don't understand how that plays out. So Stonington is pretty dialed in on how they operate, and they have need-based residents that they look for that fill out applications, a full process. So we're basing this on 43% of the households are they helping, the people they're helping are from North Stonington. So I just think that holding that money is just a lot.
So how, if they obtained their nonprofit status, do we have any other nonprofits in town that are not being given money from the operating budget that come and can ask the town for an appropriation?
A lot of nonprofits can come.
Give me
And
another example of,
I guess
we're
the
not
the
currently
Lions, I
funding
guess.
them.
so the Lions, Max Snacks, just because they're new and they're on the top of my head, they're a nonprofit that could come ask us.
The
No,
Rotary.
I'm saying who has, like,
Oh.
who has come forward?
No.
Because where do we draw the line? So I absolutely love and fully support also Max Snacks. But where do we draw the line as far as a town in giving out town money to these nonprofits? It just is concerning. And that's why I would love, and not for this budget season, post-budget season, to take a look at our social services in town in general and being able to say, let's put the money there. Here's who's going to belong to those social services. And here's the amount of money that you have to operate those social services.
So I think what we're saying is, as a board, we support the Giving Closet, but financially supporting them maybe isn't best through this vehicle, meaning the budget. Maybe a different vehicle, as Brett said, through an appropriation process. Because if it's in the budget, it's in the budget. An appropriation, then you have to come in, like Logan just did, come and explain the situation.
But they're on the budget, they're in the budget.
They are on the budget, but you can have anyone can come that's a nonprofit and come to town and say, we'd like that money, to come to the selectmen first. We're the one that's going to vet it out before we go to the Board of Finance.
So in my mind, the way it would work is when they have their status, they come to us for an appropriation. We vet it out. We decide if we send it to the Board of Finance, then it goes through. Then next budget cycle, they're already established. They have a handle on their expenses more, and they have the nonprofit status. So then it would go into the budget in my mind. That this year, I'm proposing that it goes for an appropriation once they get their status. And then next year, it's something we'd have to discuss about putting it in the budget because they already have all those status. They met everything that we've been asking them for. And then we're not tying up that money, and we're not adjusting the mill rate or people's cars based on something that might be there. And we're not cutting other things that are a definite for something that might happen.
Okay, so I think as a board, we're saying, it's not that we don't want to support them financially, just not through this process.
That's how I feel at this moment.
Is that how you feel? I guess the question is, do we want to go to 0 or 5? Or somewhere else?
Well, I mean, I guess if I feel strongly that they have to have the nonprofit status first, then why hold up $5,000 and just have that conversation with them, that they can come back. We're not saying no to any money. We're just, I mean, I could be.
So I feel uncomfortable cutting this without a conversation. So I think what we'll do is we end up doing this tonight, cutting them out of the budget. I'll reach out to Sarah and I'll explain to her what we talked about. If she's not online, I can't see that part. But if, what we talked about and what other avenue she has to have funding through the appropriation process, and I explain that process to her, but what has to happen prior to that process, if that seems fair.
I'm fine. So you're asking not to vote on it to make it
No,
definite right now?
No, I'm saying we need to make it definite now because we're going to the
Oh.
Board of Finance tomorrow, so.
Okay,
So whatever the number is we vote on now is it. So if we're saying we're going to zero them out of the budget, that's what we're voting on. That's what we're doing. I just need a motion. If that's what we're
Yeah.
doing. Somebody willing to make that motion? Other than Nicole?
I mean, do you want to just, do we have to motion each one? Because the budget isn't passed until we,
No, but I think if
Vote
we
on it.
motion it and we vote on it tonight, and then we can put it in the budget I'm handing to the Board of Finance tomorrow because we've
Right.
agreed.
but can we just, if we're a straw poll that we're all in favor that we put it here, we go through the rest, we see where we are and then we
Unless you want a straw poll, okay, so what are we saying, zero? Is that what you want it?
Yeah, until appropriation. I like that having that discussion, letting her know the process.
yeah.
And that we support her with the potential appropriation, just when she has all her ducks in a row.
Okay, so we're gonna do it through a straw poll versus a vote, but you can bring that line down to zero, and then we'll keep asking you
Yeah.
where we are. Okay. Nicole, do you have any other additions or?
No, I mean, I think that, no, that was the big one that I wanted to bring up. There's lots of things that you had suggested that I'm in favor of as well. I
So we
just
can
didn't know.
discuss those when I go through.
Yeah,
the-
exactly.
Okay. Brett, do you have anything else that you'd like to talk about? Additions or reductions?
So I just want to bring up what I mentioned before about the rec budget and hear your thoughts on it. So Ms. Tavares mentioned to me that she thought her budget would be higher, that she would need about $12,000 for programs. The drama, she does multiple ones. There's a lot of its costs involved in those as well. So licensing, all those things. And I know in the rec budget, they put in $8,000 for her, but nobody ever really talked to her about it. They just put that number in. She's thinking it should be near 12,000 based on what she is looking at. Now, that wouldn't really affect anyone's taxes per se, because we'd add that addition to the revenue for the rec commission, because those are the washes. Those are the 1099 programs. So it's not a town run program. So I guess it comes down to if you guys would like to do that, or just hope that they fall within their budget and they don't need to come for an appropriation or anything else. But we would adjust the revenue line and the expense line.
What's the number?
So it would be a
$8 to $12.
$4,000 difference,
So-
but it won't affect our bottom line number.
So here's what I've got the numbers
Program
for you.
expense, yeah.
So we'll start with, we'd have to take A 4.01 and add $4,000 to it on the revenue side. It's A 4.01. Add 4,000 to that. And then you're gonna go to, wait, when you're done, let me know. And then you're gonna go down to B 1601. And you're gonna add 4,000 to that. That's B 1601.
So it ends up being a wash, but I think it's cleaner that way than running short and then having to say, hey, to run that program, we have to go through the process.
Okay, anything else, Brett?
So can I just ask for something like drama? Is she charging kids to participate in the drama rec program?
Yeah, that's where
So
the
it's no
revenue
different
comes
than
in.
if somebody was out there having tennis classes
Correct.
and you were charged $25 for your kid. Okay, I just didn't
Yeah.
know how the revenue came in.
Yeah, it's just the
Okay.
charge that she
I guess I'm
figures for
just
each
in my
student.
mind, in school, right? Kids don't But for
Right.
rec, I.
For
I get
rec, when it's
okay.
rec programs.
Yep.
And
Okay.
like I said, that one has a lot of expenses, so that's what makes the dollar value high. So she has to charge more because her expenses, it's not just her time, it's licensing,
Yeah.
stage stuff,
All right.
whatever else. Goes into it.
Okay, what else, Brett?
And then frights and lights.
That's B.
That's on Bob's list as well.
Okay. Where was that? I saw that.
It was B, it's B 30.12. B 30.12, so
Okay. 34.
that page, 6. The bottom of the first
Right.
column.
Okay.
So it's $1,500 right now, and that's also new to the budget this year.
So I would propose that go to $500 for this year. And I also would propose that it's not under frights and lights, that it's under Three Wise Women, I think it goes by, and that was what the budget request said on the last page, that it goes to that nonprofit.
Changing the name is easy.
Yeah.
So you're recommending we reduce it from 1,500 to 500.
Correct.
Is that correct? Again, being brand new, trying to offset some of her own expenses, I'm sure. I also think it's another wonderful thing for the town that they do. Brings the town together. Yeah, I have no problem with reducing that. I had it on my list to reduce it by 500 down to 1,000. So we have two numbers. Nicole, I asked to go to 1,000. Brett asked to go to 500. Your opinion on it?
I'm actually okay going to 500. I think that we should have a similar, because in looking at her proposal, it was to cover the cost of rental and installation of lighting along Main Street for the event. So I just want to understand if she only ends up getting 500 and she needed 1,500. Like, does that mean that the lights won't be able to happen? And if that's the case, does she need anything to put it on? I want to understand that.
And I'll tell you,
as
I
well.
almost was leaning with an additional appropriation for this one too, because it is a dollar amount that who
Yeah.
knows what it changes every year, and knowing where we are in the undesignated account, or that maybe that would be an appropriation if we wanted to take it completely out of the budget. But then I thought maybe just put it down to 5. If there was extra money needed, we could do an appropriation.
What if we put it down to 1,000, but we pay it like we pay other bills by invoice only? So invoices have to be presented and then the invoice is paid. Because now it could be $762.40. Why give her 1,000? Or if it's that, give her 500. Now she needs another 100 and some odd dollars. So what if we did this as invoiced, paid invoices?
And I guess I also don't understand, is it offset by sales of booths? So I know they have vendors, right? So if they sell a ton of vendor space, does that reduce how much she needs for that stuff? I guess I don't have a full handle on that.
I know she's been paying the vendor fee for all the vendors, like one lump sum.
Right, but she collects from the vendors,
But I'm not
Right.
sure if she collects the same
Are we
amount or
sure
as
she
much.
I believe so.
I think she brought in more vendors by not doing that. That's why she's willing to pay the fee to bring in vendors. So I don't know.
Right, but I
if
think
she-
they pay her to be there. I'm
I'm not sure she charges them all, but I could be wrong
Yeah,
about that.
I'm not sure she does either. So I think, I mean, I guess I'm in, how does it work if she does end up getting the lights and they are $1,500 and we give her 500 and she's going to hand in, if she gives us an invoice for $1,500, can we just say we're giving you the 500?
No, I'd have to get an appropriation for the difference.
But not if she knows ahead of time that we are only giving her 500.
Right, if we only give her 500 and the bill for the lights is going to be closer to 1,500, then we have to get an appropriation for the difference.
But we're not,
Unless we're not giving, so she paid for that out of whatever donations or whatever last year, right? Yeah, I wish we,
well, I think the
I wish she
lights
was
are
here to
completely
ask.
different. The lights are new. So the
I thought she
1,500
had bistro lights across in the village.
just says, specifically, I'm seeking an annual contribution of $1,500 to help cover the cost of the rental and professional installation of bistro lighting along Main Street, with increases not expected to exceed 5% annually.
So she's asking for 1,500 this year,
And
next
could
year plus
potentially,
5%.
yeah.
And so that is something that we don't always look at. So we provide the policing for that. Do we provide the insurance for that?
She provides the insurance certificate. We do policing and usually a couple of highway department workers because we'll put barricades up.
So that makes me nervous that we're gonna be growing it every year without a lot of info. back.
So are you suggesting we do the same thing and we zero it out and we have her come for an appropriation?
Or we leave at 500 and then we look every year what we can do
We could
and
do
how
it.
it grows.
She could bring us quotes too. She brought us quotes on what it would actually cost. We can approve her for some amount of money tonight if you'd like. And then if she's going to exceed that, bring us quotes for what that's going to be.
But if we're only paying a portion, I think, or maybe, I mean, so I'll tell you why I wrestle. We wrestle with social services.
I know.
And then I'm like, okay, well, let's give $1,500 for bistro lights. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have when we're talking about cutting things or not enough food in the food pantry.
So I think that this comes under post-COVID, the Cultural Coalition, and when we brought the stage, I was thinking we got to get people's mental health back, right? We have to do things. We have to get outside, be with people because we're so locked up for those 2 years. And I think that's where this all came about. If you ask Jen, I think, why did this happen? It happened because of COVID and what was going on. So I think even though it's not a social service thing per se, it does bring people out. It does make people happy. It does do.
It's an
And it brings
amazing.
revenue to, I do think it also helps our local businesses too.
Yeah.
There's definitely benefits to it. So it's so funny when we sit at the Board of Ed meeting and they're talking about thousands and thousands, they're cutting,
Yeah,
and we
we're talking
argue over
$1,500.
$500 sometimes.
So I think
It gets tough.
I
So
think-
I'd be okay with the 500. If you really needed to push it to 1,000, I mean, I'm not gonna die on that hill. I'm trying to look at
Yeah.
everything we have, and especially when it's a brand new ask. Is it something that
So
you want
let's,
to put that
let's
much in?
do a motion and then we can discuss it and vote on it. So, or not vote, we'll just have a straw poll. Anyone, so were you saying
So
500?
I'm in favor
I'm
of
thinking 500.
leaving it at 500.
Okay, and we all agree with that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
500 of those. So that line is B 30.12, Sue.
And I think that's another conversation you could have about additional appropriations
Yeah.
if time is needed,
Yeah.
if things are needed.
What do we have, a good 25%?
20,000.
Really?
All right.
Just those two?
We only
They were
had-
big.
I haven't put anything back in yet, though.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
There's only one thing that's going back in.
Yeah.
As far as I.
So
that
let's
I know.
put in what you're thinking of putting back in and then see where we lie.
All right, so we know when we took 23,000 out of the fire companies per diem and said that was way too big a number. And then they came and made a presentation to the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance kind of threw it back on our laps. I met with the chief the next day and had a very tough conversation with the chief saying, this is not going to fly. There's no way I'm going to advocate to my board puts this 23,000 back in. That was what, Carolyn came and spoke about and so on. He said, let me go back and let me look at the numbers and see if I can get a number. I expected him to come back the next day or the day after with, let's split the difference. Let's do 11,500 each. He actually came back and said to me, I think we can do it for 7,898. And I was actually blown away because I had not seen that kind of cooperation in the recent past. I appreciate all that he did to get down to that number. I'm sure it wasn't easy for him either because he has to go back and he has to answer to his group, right? His board of directors in his organization. So I would like to, instead of the 23,000 going back in, I'd like to put in the 7,898. And I think that's a very fair assessment on that part. It's not the blanket 23,000 that was originally asked for that we cut. And I just think it's showing a path of cooperation between the selectmen and the fire company, which is something nice to see.
Yeah, and I'm in favor of that.
Yep, I'm fine.
So that's B26.14.
And then just looking at your lists, there are a few others that I would be on board with.
So we agree with that one first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just so you said, you got that, it's B26.14, Sue, 7,898.
Adding,
That's an add too.
not take it away.
It's on page 5, second line from the top. It was at 124,000 originally. I know, I assume it was 100 and it was 160 something. We took 23 out to bring it down to 124. So now you'll take 124 and add 7,898 to it. So bring up to 1,31898 maybe. Perfect. Thank you. That was a little confusing. I understand. Okay, so that was it for additions. Now my reductions were B100 for a selectman salary. I was knocking out the 1950. B100.
Not in favor of that one.
I don't think that I am either, and I know that that's a sensitive subject. However, yeah, no, I would prefer to keep the 1950 in there.
The B1501, your economic development reduction of 600, I'd be in favor of that.
That's removing one chamber.
Right.
So they asked for 2 chamber of commerce, and this would remove 1. And that's why I put on there, I'm not opposed to that either, obviously. Nicole, you okay with that?
The EDC
EDC B1501.
to remove 600 from it.
Yeah, so
Yes.
B1501, Sue, would be a $600 reduction.
And then the flock cameras, I do wrestle with. So I understand
see, I
people's
don't.
concerns, but I also see the public benefit to them. I did do a little research
So did I.
on them. And just because you have a camera at your house doesn't give you access to the whole system. So
Yeah, I called someone from the state on that, actually. Same thing. They said, if you have, so let's say Nicole buys a camera, puts it on her street. You can have access to your camera only. You would have to apply for access to any other camera, and you typically would get denied because you would have to have a reason why you'd want to see the other cameras. He said even the state police cannot get access to cameras unless they ask. It has to be a reason to get it. So it's not the AI free-for-all that it was appeared to be that evening. However, I do think that maybe the town's just not ready for it at this point.
I am in favor of removing it
okay.
for now.
And we do have cameras in neighboring towns, so if someone did go to another town, they would see the vehicle. So I think maybe it's a better discussion down the road, maybe for next year's budget, but so we're
All
gonna,
right. So I'd be on favor of that. then.
B2615.
B2615 would be zeroed out.
The Lantern Hill Valley Association, I'd be in favor of taking that one out.
Same.
Okay,
The Eastern Connecticut Conservation
Conservation.
District, I'd be in favor of taking that one out this year.
Same.
And then,
Those are, do you have those? It's 30.10 and 30.11. Does that zero them out?
yes.
yes,
Yeah.
We can slow down soon, and I have all these notes too, so we can go back tomorrow morning and just double check everything.
Yeah.
and then the Conservation Commission, that, I mean, that just makes sense, the 1,200, because they're not doing the, it's disappointing
I
that the
know.
calendar won't.
But they sold only a handful. I mean, they're down to $5 now, and as we get farther in the year, who wants it?
Yeah.
Right,
So-
okay.
So I talked to Bill about that actually and ran it by him, and he understands.
Yeah, the only one on your list that I didn't know if I was on board with or not, other than the first one, was the affordable housing reduction of 1,000.
So they're up to 1,500, and we have the chairman here. He'd be more than, we can ask him to speak on it if we'd like.
Because I guess part of it is with what they're looking to do, does this help cover the cost of the test holes or anything like that? Or what are we putting the 1,000?
This was more if it got approved, if the test holes were dug and they didn't hit water and we're going to start moving forward with the project, this gives them some operating money to move forward with the project. The money that was going to cover the test holes and the actual digging, $1,000 was coming from KNSA, and the balance was coming from the selectmen's engineering expense, I think.
And I guess before you start talking, is that something that we would want to look at an appropriation for after they get approved? Because what happens is it's going to cost a lot more than $1,000. And is that a better time to say, you know what, the test holes look good, we really need this to get going, and then we do an appropriation for that?
So why don't we, I mean, this must have been a discussion at one of your meetings, correct? So how did the discussion go?
As far as,
Like, how did you come up with 1,500, and what was what was the potential uses that you told your board that it was going to be used for?
right, we were looking at incidental expenses to go along with this project, maybe some renderings, things like that, that possibly would have to be made. I have no problem dropping it down to $1 and coming back for an appropriation if we need it at that point.
So I had dropped it from 1,500 to 500, but they're saying drop it to $1.
Yeah. If we need something, we'll come back and ask. There's no reason to tie it up.
Okay.
This goes right along with the rest of your discussion tonight.
Why can't I find it?
So it's B 30.09.
I know, but
It's not on here.
the fourth draft, I'm just referring to the fourth draft, and I don't even see it on, it ends at 30.08 with the school buildings and maintenance.
And then it goes to 30
Oh,
point.
you know what? It was on here originally. I think when you know what?
Oh, here it is. It's down 3409 down the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yep, I see it. Sorry. I have the wrong number on my sheet.
You know, this is the second time in 2 weeks that we had typos. So.
Okay, well, you know, I'm typing them all myself, so.
So you have 1,500 in the proposed. You want to drop it down to $1.
That's actually what was approved for the 24-25,
Correct.
just a placeholder.
All right, so we'll drop it down $1,499.
We're zeroing it out. Oh, no, to $1, sorry.
$1.
Sorry.
And if needed, we'll do an appropriation and move
Correct.
that forward. Okay.
Sure, so in B 3408. No, excuse me. Yes. And the 2,000 was because the majority of that money was done to get the calendars printed. All the work was voluntary except the actual printing, and that's what the printing cost. But they used to be, they would sell out, they charge enough to break even with the printing, and then it would be, so.
So we're dropping them to technically $800 for their
Correct.
proposed. Okay.
It's 3408.
All right. How do we look with
Yeah,
that?
so we're on.
Drum roll,
35%.
please. Wow.
So 3.77, so that makes us like 1.77 if it wasn't for the maintenance. Correct? Not that you have to figure that out
How
now.
much more do we have to cut?
I think that's it.
No, we're well under 4% now.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I kept thinking in my head, we have to be at 4.
No.
We're better than,
Oh, let's put money back in, is that what you're saying?
yeah,
I mean, is there anything we cut that first round that we weren't comfortable with? I don't really.
no.
I think we're uncomfortable, but I think we understand where we are.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that in this particular year, when we have a really tough budget, we have a overall budget. I'm talking about the overall, when I say touch, it's us and the school combined. So it's a tough year for budgets.
Bob, since we're talking about budget and this might be in here somewhere, but I don't remember us talking about it during this budget cycle, is where do we land with the tunnel repairs?
So-
The reason, I'll preface it
Go
by
ahead.
saying, the reason I'm asking is over the past few weeks, I've noticed more and more students parking on this side and using this parking lot and using the tunnel to go through. And it started me thinking, hey, we talked about the tunnel, the repairs, and then we
Yeah.
kind of just dropped it.
Yeah, so let me tell you where we were. I only dropped it because Alan's been so busy being for a new foreman and trying to get through the whole season of snow and salting. So we approved as a board that we would put out an RFP, and there's enough money in the capital for town building maintenance.
Okay.
There was enough money. There was 60 some odd thousand, which we're adding some more now, which is to paint the old town hall and to refurbish the tunnel, which we thought we could do for around 40,000. That was the number we had when he put out his one bid. So now it's gonna go an RFP, get that number, and it can be paid for out of the cap. It's not going on
Okay,
an
so we do have
appropriation.
that some.
If there's a plan,
discussion.
it just, we haven't, like many things right now, we haven't got that point
Yeah.
yet.
And one thing that we talked about is that additional appropriation for potentially the mini excavator.
Yes,
I would like to get that moving forward soon. So it's on the Board of Finance's radar when they're talking about what to do with the overages in the undesignated account before they say, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I'd like them to know that if we decide that that's going through that process, and to either earmark that money or know that we'd like to go to the town with it if we're on board with it.
so
Um,
besides what's on there now, which is a 18.81, there's things that aren't on here right now. We have it in the middle of an auction, which Alan thinks will bring it to town about $60,000, and we'll be obligating about 125,000 at the town meeting. So those two things alone is 185,000 additional that will go into the undesignated fund,
Okay,
which
all
brings
right.
us up to over 19%.
Okay.
So, but you asked me to mention, and I did mention at the last Board of Finance meeting, remember I brought up at the very end saying, don't forget about the excavator. I can do that again tomorrow.
I just don't want them to go through all this process, say, okay, we're going to reduce it down to this because of this, and then come through and say, well, we don't want to take that money out of here or talk about it because we're below our threshold.
No, exactly.
Okay.
So I think we'll have to talk about the 76,000 for the ambulance and the around 100,000 or so for the excavator, whatever that number was.
Okay.
Yep.
All
But
right.
but again, there's besides the 423, 613 going in after the audit gets approved tomorrow, there's going to be like another 185 going in.
So I'll make a motion to move this budget that we discussed tonight to the Board of Finance with a 3.77% increase, including the maintenance of the school buildings.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I don't know, I guess I do have a calculator. I wonder what that does to that second number on the budget. You know, we're going to present that two ways, Sue. So we're at 412 and then take the 100. So what does it go down to?
Wow.
Almost 2%, which is
Yeah.
crazy since that's less than the cost of living increase
Yeah.
that Brian always talks about.
Do you, since we're still talking about well, I made that motion. We can have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay,
Go
now we
forward
can
with
discuss.
or any discussion on that?
Just, are you comfortable with the amount that we put in there for the school building? So what makes me a little nervous is a big chunk of their reduction that we're talking about is from that school maintenance line, even more so than we had with, I guess with you managing it with Alan, we'll have eyes on everything, but I just worry that if they cut their budget too low on what they should be maintaining, that it eventually falls on us.
So in year one, it was never said that we were going to take everything in maintenance.
Okay.
We looked at all their maintenance and it was almost like a 50-50 split. It was 236 when we took out some things like wood chips and so on. It got down to like 200. So when we took 100, they had 100. So it was more of a first year guess at
I was just gonna say, I don't know how we're gonna be able to come up with, aside from taking a look at past invoices and
Yeah.
things, I don't know how we're gonna
Okay.
come up with a truly accurate number. You're just never gonna know what's gonna, I mean, tomorrow, something could just go over there and
Well, I hope it goes tomorrow and not after July 1st.
You know, in which case, we go for.
So Judy, I do have to say, I'm a little nervous as we get closer to July 1st, if things don't get fixed.
Right.
Just wait another week.
Well, that is a concern, right? But I do have faith with Alan and Randy working together on these things, and also looking at those joint contracts of what the town utilizes and what the school utilizes, and negotiating better contracts on services and the engineering companies and all that stuff, that we're in a little better place.
So I think we're moving in the right direction. I've noticed even Board of Ed members have said, yes, we think this is great, that we're actually doing something about it, when we're actually moving in the right direction with this. And
one of the things, actually, in the hallway during the budget cycle, Sarah Nelson brought up that might be not a bad idea for the towns that, and I said, oh, well, Bob is in that Farm 5 group, to talk about shared services when it comes to looking at those contracts. So saying, hey, we'll assign you as the company that maintains our HVAC system, and you get 4 towns together to put those out and to get the buying power
in
down.
numbers.
that's funny, that's on the next agenda.
All right, so cool, perfect, that would help.
Yeah, we're moving along. We don't meet again until July, but we're moving along.
All right.
We don't meet during budget season like most people don't like to meet. Everyone's got their heads spinning. So, all right, so we're good on that.
Yeah.
We just got to vote on it.
Oh, yeah.
All those in favor of moving the budget at 3.77, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. That was good work. Not everybody's going to be happy, I get it, but budget's tough to make everybody happy. 1750 house lease. So what's happening there? I talked to Patrick Irwin. He's our current tenant. He's going to move out of there by the end of April. He'll be gone by May 1st. We do need a little bit of time to clean it up. Like, no, we have to inspect it because we have his damage deposit. And we took his first and last month rent and the damage deposit. So we have to go through it, make sure that it's clean for the next tenant. But we also, because in all fairness, we have to put it out. We have to market it and say, hey, this is going to become available like we did the last time 3 years ago. And anyone can bring their application in to say, yes, I'd like to possibly rent it. I think we had 3 the last time we decided on Patrick. I already have 2 people talking to me already about it. I do also want to get that back porch fixed. There is some money in the 1750 house budget. And I have a couple of people on the Ewart Farm Committee who were carpenters and woodworkers that could do it for a lot less than if we hire a contractor. That's an option. So, but right now, timing is more of the essence. So I'd like to, in the next week or so, put out, if you agree with me, put out an ad. I'll see what we did the first time. You have a copy in your packet of what the residential agreement is now. And I'd like you to, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, maybe look and see if there's any suggested changes. I have to go to a town meeting on this because we're leasing town property, which I can also put on the May 5th schedule. So if you think we should, obviously there's concerns about what we're charging for rent at this point. That should probably go up.
So that was one of the things that I was looking at, and I actually think we could comfortably and still be on the low side at $2,000 a month rent.
Really?
So if you look at properties out for rent, if you look at even that small 2-bedroom, 1-bath house right behind town hall, I think they're at 2 or 2,200 for that right now. I think it's 2. So I was going to say either 19 to 2, and I still think that's low for I think it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath house.
Yes, I mean, it's old. There's 2.5 bath. The utilities are fairly high there because even though we put new windows in it, there's still not any insulation in the walls.
Right, but everybody's utilities are.
Those might be a little bit higher. But no, this isn't a charity program by any means.
Right.
I just don't want to price it so high that we have nobody rent it. But I think if you think we can, and I'm not as experienced because I haven't rented in a long time. If you're telling me that 2,000 is the number, I'll believe you. Unless we have no applicants, then we might have to drop it.
I think you get plenty at 2.
So basically it's 2,000 and all utilities.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with that? Okay. So do you mind that I'll look at the original ad that we did 3 years ago, kind of copy that same ad? Do you know anything in this lease agreement that you'd like to change? I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
I think the only change we made in the 3 years is we allowed Patrick to have 2 cats instead of 1 because it said 1 pet originally. And I think we changed that to 2. Other than that, I don't think there's any changes made to this agreement.
Yeah, the only other thing I would say is that if we-
Can I just, I'm sorry. So I was just reading and I honed in on the second page. And I was looking, I saw the 1,200 a month. That's the prorated first month.
That was correct because he came in
So
on
the
July 11th.
actual monthly rent is 1,600.
Yeah.
1600.
Okay, so the 2 is not,
to $400
Okay,
since
the 2's not as
2022. Yeah.
bad of a hike as I
Right,
thought.
right.
In my mind, I'm
Oh,
thinking
yeah, if we were at 1,200, I
1,200.
would, yeah, I wouldn't
Okay,
suggest
all
that.
right,
And it's
thank
three,
you.
and it's 3 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years,
Yeah.
but I would look at putting, I mean, ideally, it'd be nice to find someone that's doing more than a year lease. And if that were the case, I would put in like a contingent for the second year or something like that, where it might go up a few percent or something.
Obviously, when we see the applicants come in, the longer the lease, the better it is for the town. So
Yeah.
I would hate to start thinking about leasing this thing every year because
And with it though, we have to remember that we're landlords and we should maintain that to the best we can. So I know like the paint's peeling and when you're coming from the other side of Hewitt, if you're coming up and you see the garage side or whatever, it's starting to look a little rough. So I think as landlords, we have to make sure we maintain that building, especially when people are paying.
No, I agree. So the
Rent.
back porch has to be fixed. The front, there's a sill in the front door that doesn't get used, has to be fixed.
Yeah.
And I asked them to do like a soft wash to just get the mildew off the, especially the carriage house. And then we're planning on paint that this year.
Okay.
And there's money to do that. Okay.
All right. And then Alan will go through and look at after he moves out to see if anything needs to be painted inside or
Correct.
whatever.
Yep. We just had it all repainted just before he moves in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Being a single tenant, I don't
Right.
expect to find much. And then depending on who moves in, he said he'd be willing to talk to that person, well, either keeping the furniture there, selling the furniture, let him have the furniture. I said he can cut that deal with whoever we decide
Okay.
is going to be the tenant.
So that's the only thing that I see changes is the
Yeah,
the
I mean, we
rental
just,
rate.
obviously, we changed the date because this is
Yes.
based on July.
Right, and we'll just look at the, when we see the applicants, the pros and cons of each one. Obviously, the number of years is one. If there's any special skills that the person has, there's another. I mean, if you're handy versus not handy.
Now, Bob, just touch base with me. It has to go back to a town meeting because we're changing.
I could be wrong about that. You're my statute and ordinance guy. Will you?
So the statute says if we're leasing, we have to get approval to lease or to sell a town building. We already got approval to
got the
lease it. I don't know if we have to get approval. That might be, you might want to just run it by the town.
Yeah, but-
I don't know if we have to do it every time the lease is
So
up.
since we're changing the number, do we have to do it?
That's a town attorney question.
I'll ask Robert Vina.
How much additional, let me do the really simple math. What are we're increasing it by 400?
400 times 12.
So could we add that
An
money into
additional- I
our,
was just gonna say, do we
revenue
add an
line?
additional 4,800?
And, so I think that, yeah, we could, but I would rather not, only
Okay.
because of there's other revenue that comes in that could change too. The early learning center could change.
Okay.
We're speculating on what could happen. There's also the Bon Appetito money goes up, that is figured. So there was some increases figured
okay,
in the, already because of Bon Appetito's on that 50-year lease agreement. SCWA pays us, early learners pay us, and
all right. So I'll make a motion to move this lease forward in whatever way, Bob, you hear from the town attorney.
so if I find
With
out
the
we don't have
change.
to go to a town meeting, because we haven't been approved to rent it, to lease it.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of similar to when Mike got the approval to lease out the middle school, and it wasn't like every particular room had to be approved. It was, can we lease out the middle school?
Right.
And we did. That was approved. So,
So
all
I'll
right,
make a
I'll look
motion,
into that.
to move this lease forward in the rental in the amount of $2,000.
I can't see where, oh, sorry, second.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? I would just say I can't see where the town would be. Really, so it said we can do it. Why would you not want to have lease that building? And if there's an increase in revenue, why not do it, right? Especially if you have a very reliable tenant, which I'm sure we will have.
And I think we were tough screeners the first time around.
Well, you know what, you just have to, you want to be careful that, I mean, it's an older house. It's by itself and you would hate to have something happen to someone that nobody knows about it, you know? So I just want to make sure that we get the right tenant again. I think we had a great tenant for the first 3 years and I'd love to do that again.
So it does say that they can have, I love this, one cat or dog up to 80 pounds. Like to see
Yeah,
that.
so I think.
Like to
he-
see that 80-pound cat.
So know what he did? He
It doesn't
got
say.
240, no, he got 240-pound cats.
Oh, Jesus. But it doesn't mention anything about kids, because it's a super old house.
You know, it's kids, you said?
Yeah,
No, so I think that would be part of the application. We would
Yeah.
decide if we want
but the
children.
lease currently would not
Yeah.
exclude
I don't know if you can
somebody with
discriminate.
kids.
Like,
Yeah, I don't think we could
people with
discriminate.
kids.
Okay,
But we make the
I'm
decision
just
what's the
looking at
best
the
fit for the
lease.
house.
we can discriminate against pets.
There was,
clearly.
there was 2.5, 2 children and an infant living there originally when I came in the office.
Yeah, but that was before, it was were we getting rent for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't
yeah.
that wasn't going towards the seaport?
That was
No,
the
we were
town.
getting rent.
Oh,
It was,
okay.
it was, we owned it.
Okay,
And we made it nicer since
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
okay.
I would say those
Yes.
windows have made a big difference in that house. That was
So
a
did we
good,
vote already?
we,
No vote.
no
Okay.
vote. So let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Will we
Okay.
will we all do the interviews? I think last
Yeah,
time
we
we
did.
did. Okay.
Yeah, I think that we had written applications and I brought them all to a meeting.
Yeah.
We discussed the applications. I didn't think we had the tenants come in and talk
No,
to
we
us.
did. We zoomed.
No, I think
We
we
zoomed.
did.
We interviewed them. Yep.
I did
spruced
not
them.
make friends.
I don't remember
was
that.
One of the first things.
Nope, you did.
No, I
remember
did
hearing
not.
about it.
She won't let me forget it either.
You know, things happen for a reason. What a nice spot she
Yeah,
has.
she found a great house
She
after
did.
that, so it worked
She
out well.
did. She has me to
Um,
thank for that.
All right, next, is probably the easiest thing we're gonna do this evening.
Yes.
Is then we want to motion to
Yeah.
approve the Memorial Day Parade.
Make a motion to approve the Lions Memorial Day Parade for May 26th at 10 a.m.
I'll second.
And part of the discussion, Bob, I'd love for you, like you did last time, to reach out to the school,
Totally.
It's all set.
see if you get bands.
It's all set.
Perfect.
Alex, the gentleman who came in, played the taps at the event we had with the
Yeah.
wreaths.
Yeah.
He's already got the band all lined up.
Yeah.
I got him in touch with Tom Adams and it's a done deal. And they're gonna do the taps, the band, the whole
And
thing.
maybe when you talk to Tom, you know, we always had like Little League and stuff like that, but maybe reach out to Little League again. The lacrosse has a large contingency of children now in our town that play in that rec lacrosse league and try to get some of those kids
If I
back.
was to, he has trouble finding these people. If I was to give you his contact information, could we as three go out to organizations and say, hey,
Yeah.
if you want to be in, can you call this guy? He'll put him in.
Yeah, if he's open to that, I don't mind.
I think I'd
helping
rather do it
for
that
us.
way because he has no way to find these people.
Yeah. I think,
Okay, so I'll get you his contact information.
Is there something that we can do to attract people to stay for the ceremony at the end? I don't know if it's.
I don't think we talk about it ever, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
It-
I hate to see people up there talking and have people kind of filing out of town.
So I think that there's always places to go, right? There's sporting
I
events
know.
that day. And I think we've actually had a decent, if the weather's decent, we had a decent crowd the last couple of years. Now we have the stage. It looks a little more professional.
But
Yeah.
maybe we put out something
We could.
on our Facebook page and on social media to talk about it. Because I don't think a lot of people know that when it ends there, there's a ceremony.
There's a ceremony.
I didn't my first few years living in town,
Well, I never knew I could get a hot dog
Well,
at the
me
fire
neither.
company either.
but you couldn't last year because they ran out before the
So
parade was over.
they're adding an extra 150 this year. They already told me.
I do think that if the band and or the chorus stays for the ceremony, that attracts
Yes.
Yeah.
parents and families to stay
And
as
he's
well.
planning on
Just-
having the band staying.
Yeah, okay, good. Good.
All right, so that's good. So,
We voted, yeah?
all,
No?
We didn't vote yet.
we just chatted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's always a nice event. It's good. Hopefully a good day. If you go by that area today, the Boy Scouts were there yesterday putting flags in for the when we moved the
Oh, I was
monuments.
wondering what they were, I thought it was
Yeah.
like call before you dig. over
No,
there.
that was the Boy Scouts putting flags. So we already have a plan and we have a retired landscape architect named James Collin from town who's working with them as far as
Oh,
getting the right
very
design.
good.
And I've already talked to Alan about how we're gonna move the monuments and build bases. So we're gonna go measure the bases tomorrow, then they're gonna build the wooden bucks for the concrete. Put those on top of the ground. The Boy Scout will come with the landscape architect and move those bases around to see how they want the stones situated. And then, and then,
Oh, nice.
yeah, it's, my plan is to have it done before Memorial
Oh,
Day.
that'd be great.
That's-
Speaking of that, is there a way to put a flag on that pole on a regular basis?
There's no one there to do it.
So we can't have someone from the highway department throw a flag up there?
We have one at the green, don't forget.
Yeah, but I'm thinking if this is where we're gonna have our memorial rocks,
So we could, but we'd have to put a light on
A
it.
light on it.
I was gonna
If we
say, why
keep it
couldn't
up
we
at
just
night?
Put a spotlight on it
Yeah.
and keep it up.
So if we're gonna make this something special, and I really want to we do the grass over too, so it's a nice lawn there. I think that would make sense to have a flag and a light.
yeah, you can get a solar light now that's
Yep.
actually really works really well
'Cause
on
we do have
flag.
a light on the other side, but that's plugged in.
Right.
Um,
I'm just thinking we don't have power, but I think if we're making that a memorial area, to have the flagpole right in the middle without a flag, it's almost, I don't think it has the right look. that
So
we want.
I think that's not a bad suggestion. I
Did
think
you
as
say that there's already a light on
no,
the other side?
on the green is a light.
Okay,
Village Green, we have those lit.
okay.
And speaking of that, now that I say flags, the flags at the green, there's some that are pretty tattered there.
Yeah,
Not the American flag, but the other two.
we've changed those out periodically when we've seen the tattered.
Okay.
I think there's a POW, because the American, there's another flag. It's not the Connecticut flag. Can't think what the other one is.
Okay.
I got some
The
nice,
one on the right side, if you're looking at it, looks.
I have
this is
3
wrong.
really nice 2007 bicentennial flags in my office if you want. Apparently we bought a bunch of them and they're all folded up now. They're sitting in the
Interesting.
closet. So, yeah. That's about it.
right.
Old business, I have none at this point. Oh, yes, we do. New IT guy started Monday.
Oh, nice.
He's hit the ground running.
Yeah, Ben McNeil.
Very good.
You know,
Yeah.
he's,
Very good.
when I went around with him, he's a big gentleman. Big. I introduced him as my bodyguard, not as the IT guy. He's a nice guy. He's already hit the ground running. He's been over at the other building fixing things. We did the tour, not the town tour that's coming up, but he went to every building that we own, spent time at every building.
Excellent.
Took a notepad and jotted down what he thought he needed, and he's setting up an appointment with each building to say, I need to spend some time here. So he's very knowledgeable. He was actually going to move a server tonight, but his key to the town hall doesn't work. And I
Break it
couldn't
in.
stay any later. I had to go. So I got him into the new one, but his key at the old town hall doesn't work.
Okay.
That was Quentin's old key.
Yeah.
But he always came late anyway, so it didn't matter.
He's developing a plan finish the server migration.
Oh, okay, great.
So, yeah,
And
it's a
then,
great asset.
will he be updating the website and stuff too?
Yeah,
I
I'm
know
doing
it-
that right now
'Cause it
until he
seems
gets
a little
settled in.
outdated.
Yeah, that's because I'll do
I
it.
think he's going to be a lot more attentive, and he's spending quality time with all the employees to see. So he's looking at the equipment. He's also looking at the employee, like, okay, what kind of help do they need, and learning who they are, what their job is, and how does internet interfere with their job or interact with their job. So,
Very
yeah,
good. Well, I'm excited.
everybody so
So
far likes
we're
it.
fully staffed at town
Yeah.
hall as of now.
Yeah, but the last time I said that, 2 weeks later, we weren't.
Must be
Okay.
your managerial
Oh,
staff.
my God. And we start negotiations tomorrow. All right, so that's it. Public comment. Is there any public comment on anything we spoke about this evening?
Nothing online.
Nothing online. Brian, you good?
Really?
Because I know,
To beg people for votes.
no, here's the thing is, I know he came all the way down
It's
here.
not a bad thing. I just want to point out a couple of things that,
That might sound.
there you go. Brian Rathman, 263 Grindstone Hill Road. Now I picked this up at the library and it tells about the neighborhood center, which they actually go out and get, looks like businesses and stuff to help support it. And we do give them a lot of money. And they do take care of a lot of people in North Stony.
What is that, the newsletter, Brian?
The Buck Talk Neighborhood Center. And then I want to point out, oh, you mentioned about nonprofits, and I'm not sure, but I think it is the Grange. That's a nonprofit, and they never ask any money for a town, from the town at all. And I don't think the Lions has ever, I think you mentioned that. So anyways.
You do things for the Grange and the fair committee, like loan them equipment during the fair and things like that. So the town does have a good working relationship with those groups.
Yeah, right. And also the fire department does the fair with them.
Yeah.
Oh, what about churches? Are they nonprofit? You think you might get a run of churches coming in?
I believe there's a separation of church.
Just a thought, you know what I mean? Because I know you were talking about it, and I think you gotta look at all avenues like I do. You guys know that. Anyways, you think what you've done tonight will be ready tomorrow afternoon or something, so I could,
Yes, I'll have it ready by a little afternoon time.
okay, because mine's all scratched up.
It'll be, yeah, well, it'll
Need
be,
a new copy.
there'll be drafts on the table in the
Yeah.
foyer, in the aisle.
Yeah, I do, I got. All over the
God
place.
bless you, Brian.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Thank you.
I have a public comment now
Go
that I
ahead.
think about it. I just want to thank you guys. The budget process is, we're not through it yet technically, but it's a pleasure working on a board with the two of you. I know we have disagreements sometimes. We have different priorities on certain things. But in the end, we can always talk it out and try to come to a consensus. Now, we might always not vote the same, but I appreciate how we can talk through things. And we try to look at what our town needs, what our residents need, and also what the tax base looks like in our community. And we make tough decisions, and they're not always welcomed by some members of the community, but that's what happens. But the way that we can work through them as a board, I really appreciate that. So I just want to thank you, because this can be a trying time for all of us, for residents, every board that we're involved with, every department. And I know, Bob, you've been amazing with the team you have in place, and your staff leads, and Alan, looking out for the town, but also thinking about the taxpayer at the same time. Alan's been doing an amazing job on that, and Suzanne, you as well, and everybody at Town Hall. It's a nice feel. I interact with other communities and other towns, and you guys do a great job. But I think as a board, I really appreciate that we can talk through things and come to some common ground and try to move forward on things. So I think sometimes we take that stuff for granted, but when I look at some other communities and other boards and other commissions in different towns and see what happens, I see what happens. I think despite our differences, we try to do what's best for the community. And I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Couldn't agree more.
I appreciate the remarks, and yeah, the budget season's not easy, but I think we as a board are fiscally conservative. I think we can understand what the town can afford or what it can't, and we're not coming in with these crazy ideas of, well, why don't we add this and why don't we add that? And I think that's shown in the last 3 or 4 years that we've and as you'll see when you hear the audit tomorrow night, how well we're doing financially as a town. So we see it in the undesignated fund, we see it in our net gain as a town. So I agree with you, Brett, on that. Quick story, I promise we'll keep going a minute. Talking about Alan and him looking at numbers. Funny story today with Melissa. She's an accounting generalist, right? So what is she doing? So she's doing the bill for the guy who comes in, does the medicine cabinet. And she comes in and goes, Bob, we're paying $18 for this hand sanitizer. Who pays $18 for sanitizer? She goes, I'm calling them. And she's also, we're getting charged. He's coming and charging us $25 a visit for our town hall. And he goes to the other town hall and they charge $25 a visit for that. He's coming to the same parking lot, doesn't move his truck, and goes to both. I'm calling them. I go, knock yourself out. So she called them and said to them, we don't need you to fill up every month. And why am I paying $18 for the sanitizer? And why are we charging 2 stops when you're only parking your car once and going to both buildings? So she's looking out at numbers, and I think that is something that that tells me someone's invested in the town,
Exactly.
right? So, and she doesn't live in town, she lives in Ledger, but she's invested in our town, so just to add on to your story. Okay, thank you. She'll be online tomorrow night too.
She will, yes.
To answer any questions that we might have when the auditor is explaining, so she'll be there too. All right, our next meeting is April 15th. There's no comment online, right, that we can see? No. So I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 We're adjourned at 8:15. Sure.
Thank you, folks.